Good morning. This is Dr. Kempton with the new Dr. Kempton Show here on YouTube. We're no longer on the radio, but we're still out there uh, sending good wishes to everybody. So today I want to talk a little bit about projecting goodness into the future. And I want to know if you um, do that. Okay, so let me get back a little bit here. I waved my hands around a little bit, so that's what we can do that. So anyway, tell you a little bit about my grandfather. He owned a liquor store in Concordia, Kansas, uh, Kempton's Liquor Store. My granddad ran that. My dad worked for him, and I used to go down to my granddad's liquor store and hang out with my grandfather. In fact, many times some of the World War II veterans would come in and they would grab a bottle or two, usually just one, and they would go around the corner to the bathroom back in the back. And it was, I don't know if I should say this or not, but anyway, it was known as the shitter. Okay? So they would all go back to the shitter because it had the coldest water in Concordia, Kansas. And I don't know why, but it was ice cold. And they would take a cup and they would pour a little drink and then put a little cold water with that, mix it, and then they would sit in there and talk and tell stories. And I learned a lot uh, about veterans, about World War II, um, and the interaction with with the sailors and soldiers and Marines and Air Force. They would all talk, of course, give each other bad time. But one day I was at the store, at the liquor store, and I remember I was probably, gosh, I think I must have been five because I think I was out of kindergarten, and I think it was in the afternoon, and these kids were coming back to go back home, and my grandfather's liquor store was on the south side of the railroad tracks. You've always heard the story. There's somewhere in every town. If you're on the north side of the railroad tracks, or the east side, or west side, or south side, that's the poor part of town. And in Concordia, it was the north side of the railroad tracks. And my grandfather's business was very, very close to that. In fact, half a block. So these kids were walking to and fro to school, going past his store every day. And I remember one time, one of the kids was walking by, and my grandfather stepped out and said, "Hey, I got a question for you." He said, "Yeah." He said, "Are those the only shoes you got?" And I remember it being cold. He says, "Yeah." He says, "Those are my brother's shoes." He says, "Now they're my shoes." And he was very happy about it. And Granddad said, "Okay." He said, "Tomorrow, why don't you come by a little earlier going to school?" He says, uh, "Tell your parents that you're going to stop and talk to Lloyd Kempton." He said, "Okay." And he took off. Came back the next morning, and I don't. I may not have been. I may not have been in kindergarten because I remember him coming back the next morning. But anyway, he came back the next morning, and my grandfather said, I had another guy working for him. He says, told the guy to take over the shop. He said, "I'll be right back." And he said, "Come with me." So the kid got in the car. Of course, we couldn't do this nowadays. This is in the 60s, um, early 60s, in fact. So the kid got in the car with my granddad and me, and we went down to Brown's shoe store. I think it's Brown's shoe store in Concordia, and he let the boy pick out a new pair of shoes. And they were I don't remember what kind of shoe, but I remember him picking out a pair of shoes. And then we took him back, and we took him back to school and let him off. And then Granddad came back and started the day over. And I thought that was kind of odd. And I remember one year he was talking to some people. And one of the guys came in and said, "Hey," he said, "I heard you took Johnny's boy down and got him a pair of shoes." My granddad, shoes were the most important thing because he was a super athlete, and he ran track, he ran field, he did basketball, baseball, all that. But to him, your feet had to be taken care of properly because they took you to and from places. And with him, it was hunting or sports. And I found out later on he took a lot of kids from the north side down to get shoes. And I always thought that was interesting. I said, so I asked him one time later on, I said, Granddad, I remember when I was a kid, you took a little boy to go get shoes. He says, yeah. And I said, I've heard a few people tell me that you've done that for quite a few kids. He goes, yeah. I said, why? Why are you buying shoes for other kids? He says, well, I own a liquor store, and I'm on the north side of town, and a lot of these kids don't have shoes because a lot of times their parents come in here and buy liquor from me, and that they're using their kids' shoe money to buy liquor from me so that I can feed you and clothe you. He says, so sometimes it's just nice to give back to those people. And I always thought that was really, really, really interesting. So one day I graduated from chiropractic college. I came to Salina, Kansas, and I was in my office, and a newspaper girl came by, and she wanted to know if I wanted to have a subscription to the Salina Journal, and sure. So I bought a subscription, and that was in probably October. It come around January, February. Oh my gosh, it was cold. This was 79 or 78 into 79 that winter. And it was miserably cold. And here she came. She come walking in, delivered my paper, and she didn't have any gloves. I said, what are you doing? I said, where's your gloves? She said, I don't have any gloves. So you know what I did? I said, tomorrow, before you start your paper route, come in here a few minutes early. We're going to go somewhere. She goes, okay. And so she came in. We took off. We went off to Alco, I think it was at the time. We went there, and I said, pick you out a pair of gloves. And she picked out these cloth-looking winter gloves that were a piece of crap. And I said, no. I said, pick you out a warm set of winter gloves. Some good ones. I took her over to the place. I said, pick some out of this area. And she goes, why? I said, because you can't deliver papers with your hands so cold. I said, it's not enjoyable, it's not fun, it's not safe, and it's not healthy. So pick you out a pair of gloves. So she did. And she wore those, and she was a patient of mine for years. And every so often she would remind me that I bought those pair of gloves for her. And it really made me feel good. And she went on to have a very, very successful, fun life. So my grandfather passed away. And I went to take, with the rest of the family, we went to take everything out of his little apartment that he had at a rest home. And I was taking everything out, and I remember carrying a chair down and getting ready to take it out to the outside to the truck that we had. And this kid came up to me. Now, I was probably, at the time my grandfather passed away, 35, maybe 40, somewhere in there. Not sure. And anyway, this boy, younger guy than me, he was probably 5 years younger than me, came up and he said, are you Doug Kempton? I said, yeah. He goes, was Lloyd your grandfather? I said, yeah, I was. He goes, he's a real special guy. I said, well, thank you. He says, yeah. I said, I've been taking care of him for the last 2 years. And he said, I just want you to know something. Your grandfather bought my first coat. And I said, really? He says, yeah. He says I was going by the store one time, and he picked me up, and we went down to Schmitty's there in Concordia, and he said he bought me a coat, and it was an expensive coat. And Schmitty's was a nice place. And he said he bought me my first winter coat. And he says, I will never ever forget that. He said, I later found out that your grandfather had bought a couple people their shoes, winter shoes, and coats, and he would do that periodically. But I just want to let you know what your grandfather did to me, and he meant a lot. Oh, it just made me feel so good. So, you never know what's going to happen. Here's a guy who took care of my grandfather, and when he was a little kid, my grandfather got him his first winter coat. And that guy took probably better care of my grandfather than anybody else there. Maybe not, I don't know, but probably. So, you never know what's going to happen to make somebody else's life a little happier. Anytime something happens, you have a decision to make, one way or the other way. And it's your decision that can change a man's or a woman's life forever, one way or the other. So, for instance, for me, give you a couple of them, in fact. One day, I was driving along, and this young kid came around the corner and hit my car. And it wasn't a hard hit. I mean, I was going through coming through a paper, getting ready to go into a parking lot, and he was coming out, and he slammed into me. And you could just see him. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And I pulled over, and he pulled over, and I had this orange Eldorado. I think I can't remember. But anyways, it was just an orange beat up piece of crap, and I just got into practice. I couldn't afford anything. And he gets out, oh, mister, I'm sorry. He said, I just got my driver's license, and, I got insurance and stuff like that. I said, let me tell you something. What kind of shape your car's in? He says, it's not. He says, I hit the bumper. He says, my car's just got some orange paint on it. Ugly orange paint at that. And I said, you see that car there? He said, yeah. I said, it's full of dents. I said, now you've got a dent in my car. He goes, I'm really, really sorry. I said, don't worry about it. He said, what do you mean? I said, don't worry about it. I said, I'm not going to take your name, not going to take your number. I said, you can drive on off. He says, and I could see him look at me. He goes, you mean I can just leave? I said, yeah. He goes, I said, I'll tell you what, I'll leave first. That way you're sure that you're not leaving the scene of the crime and I'm going to get you in trouble. And he goes, really? I said, yeah, my name's Dr. Kempton. There's a new chiropractor here in town. And you know something? Just drive better next time. I don't want this to go against your record. And I left. And years later, I'm at a pizza place here in town, a really nice pizza place. And I'm sitting there, and I think I'm having probably a Weller's and Coke. I usually have one periodically. I'm like a once a month drinker. Anyway, I'm sitting there drinking a Weller's and Coke, and pretty soon another glass sits down in front of me, and I said, I'm just drinking one. Guy says, no. He says, that guy over there bought your next drink for you. I looked down the bar. I was sitting at the bar, and I saluted him, like you do. And I said, what's the reason for the drink? And he comes over and sits next to me. He goes, you don't remember me, do you? I go, no. He said, I was 16 years old and I ran into your orange car. I went, oh my gosh. I said, I remember that. And we sat and talked. I said, so what happened? He says, nothing. He said, I went to college. He says, I'm an accountant in, I think, Abilene or Topeka, somewhere out east. And he said, I had a young kid hit me. He said, I did the same thing. He says, you never know what you do. It's going to pass something on. And I said, well, that's fantastic. I said, we talked a little bit and stuff. He says, he said, I could have lost my car when that happened. And because I didn't lose my car, I was able to go to, he was a really good student, I guess, because he was able to go on to college, go to a college, taking college courses because he had a car and wasn't taken from him. I mean, you just think about that. If I would have stepped forward and said, no, we're going to take care of this, it would have been terrible for him. And so you just never know what's going to happen. One time my son and I were watching a movie in Wichita, Kansas. And we stepped out and we got in our car, and I was driving down the lane, and this lady, the young girl, comes roaring out and hits me. And it was a bumper to bumper thing. And because I was just going by, and she came out, bang, hit me from behind. So I got out, and the father gets out, just reaming this poor little girl's butt, just going after her. I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. I said, wait a second. And it's a beautiful, beautiful day. I said, wait a second. I said, before this happened, were you having a good day? And he goes, yes. I said, you know, before this happened, I was having a beautiful, great day. I said, I got my son right here with me. And the kids, my son was probably about 4 years younger than the girl that was driving. And I said, we're having a great day. And I said, you know what? We just got done watching a movie. And he said, asked me what it was, and they were going to go to the same one. I said, oh, you're going to enjoy it, but you got to get in there. And I said, you know what? We can stand here, run a great day with our kids, waiting for the police to show up to give somebody a ticket or not give a ticket. And I said, my car is not hurt. I don't know if yours is or not, but I said, I'm getting in my car and I'm leaving. He says, you really? I said, yeah. I said, have a great day. Have a good day with your daughter and let this go under the bridge. It's not worth ruining a beautiful day about. And he thanked me, and my son looked at me, and I said, you know, sometimes it's just not worth all the hassle to have a bad moment in life. So I've got a few more, but I want you to think about the next time something happens in your life, what are you going to pass on? I've got one quick last one. We were sitting at a restaurant a while back, and the chef did a fabulous job. And I wanted to talk to him, so I talked to him. A young guy. Young guy. I'm 67 years old. 3/4 of the world is younger than me. More than that, actually. Anyway, so he comes out and he goes, what's wrong? I said, he goes, how was your food? I said, it's fabulous. I said, it's one of the best meals I've had. I said, I just wanted to say thank you and everything. He says, that really makes me happy. And he started turning around. He says, you know, today's a great day for me. I said, what's that? He goes, I just found out, and I thought this is interesting. He said, I just found out that my girlfriend, I'm engaged to, who we're going to get married in next month, just found out she's pregnant. And I said, that's fantastic. I said, so you're going to have a little? He says, yeah. He says, I'm just beside myself. He says, I know it's not the right order, but he says, can you believe that? I said, that's great. I said, let me give you something. He said, you're the first guy I've told. He says, the rest of my family, except for my girlfriend, of course, doesn't know. You're the first person I've told. And I opened up my wallet, and I carried a $2 bill for over 10 years. And I pulled it out, and I handed it to him. And I said, here's your baby's first gift. It's a $2 bill. It's a lucky $2 bill. So share it and have a good time. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with the $2 bill, but you know, it made me feel good, it made him feel good, and maybe the baby will get that. And someday in the future goes, Dad, where does the $2 bill come from? And he'll be able to tell that story. So you need to share all the good things that are going on. So just have a good life. Share the happiness, and don't turn a frown into a smile. Keep smiling, keep smiling, keep swimming. Okay? Anyway, this is Dr. Kempton with the Dr. Kempton Show here on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching. May God bless.